Hey everyone, and welcome back to RetroVival. Today we're revisiting another gem from the Xbox 360 arcade library, and that's one that has gone on to receive a remaster, a sequel, and a third game that was announced a few years ago. Today I'm looking back on Undead Labs' State of Decay. Now if you have any memories of this game, if you played it back in the 360 era, maybe you played the remaster on Xbox One or PC, let me know down below. And yes, I did record this entire video in OBS without selecting an audio source. So, round 2! Let's rewind back to 2012. The world hadn't ended, thankfully. London hosted the Olympics, Gangnam Style took over the world, and the Avengers assembled for the very first time on the big screen. But in the world of gaming, one mod would come along and take the industry and players by storm. 2012 saw the release of the Arma 2 mod, DayZ, by Dean Hall. I remember being absolutely obsessed with DayZ videos back in the early days. It was such a cool concept, a big open world multiplayer zombie survival game. If you die, your character is gone, but you can always try to track them down and recover your stuff if you're lucky enough to find them. I really wanted to play the game, but at this point I just had my Xbox 360 and a very bare bones laptop, so YouTube had to fill the void. But then in 2013, something special showed up on the 360, a game in development well before the release of DayZ, but one that would give me a very similar but very different experience to what I was wanting to play for a year. And honestly, a game I ended up loving way more than the little bit I ended up playing of DayZ. State of Decay is a single-player, open-world zombie survival game. It features base building mechanics, looting, resource management, weapon degradation, driving, stealth, community building, and being able to switch to characters that you recruit throughout the game, along with permadeath for all of those characters, so if you die out in the open world, they're gone. State of Decay shares some similarities with DayZ, but it's entirely its own game. It gave me an almost Walking Dead-like experience with you building the community, finding characters you love, and experiencing the story, and potentially shockingly losing some of those characters along the way. While we did have zombie games like Dead Rising and Dead Island and Left 4 Dead on the 360, State of Decay was an incredibly unique experience in comparison. It really was in that early era of survival games, along with the likes of DayZ and Minecraft. Little did we know how many more games in this genre would follow, for better or worse. I titled this chapter that for a reason. Here's a little bit of a setup for the story. Your journey begins on Mount Tanner, where you take control of Marcus Campbell, who's joined by his friend Ed Jones. The lads are on their way home from a camping trip when everything goes to hell. You'll run into Thomas Ritter, and he's trying to get people to safety at this ranger station. He asks you to check a nearby cabin for survivors, and while doing that you'll hear gunshots in the distance that'll lead you to another playable character called Maya Torres, who's a former soldier and she specialises in more ranged weapons. Every character has their own positives and negatives, you've got to take that into consideration when heading out and what weapons and stuff you're equipping them with. Marcus and Maya were always my two that I tried to stick to. They make their way back to the ranger cabin and find Ritter dead, and Ed decides to check his wallet for a name, just for some form of identification, and he ends up getting bit by Ritter, but he survives. The way the zombie virus works in State of Decay is a little bit different than everything else, so a bite doesn't necessarily mean you're going to turn. A quest later on sees you getting medical supplies for Ed to recover, but if you leave it too long, he will kick the bucket. Our trio fight their way down the mountain, and then they make their way to the Church of the Ascension. The church is being used by a group of survivors as a safe house, and it's here that we meet Lily Ritter, the daughter of Thomas Ritter. Lily will help you throughout the game with helpful tips, story info, and informing you of issues in the community. And that's where you really set off on your zombie survival journey. You'll encounter some shady locals like the Wilkersons, help survivors you encounter get back to the safety of your base and even take control of them, clash with the military that are trying to contain the outbreak to Trumbull Valley. You've got Judge Lawton, who has the town of Marshall on lockdown, survivors have to surrender their weapons and only authorized security are allowed to use them, and of course you've got the undead swarming Trumbull Valley at every turn. As I've said, Trumbull Valley starts you off on Mount Tanner, a once popular camping location before things kicked off. Spencer's Mill is where you first make home in the Church of the Ascension. Spencer's Mill has got a bit of everything from weapon shops, restaurants, doctors' offices, caravan parks, and more, as well as just regular houses and some unfinished construction sites with useful materials for upgrading your base. It's a great spot to clear out and fill with different outposts early on, expanding your safe area by a decent amount. You'll travel across the farmlands and find a crashed plane, along with a nice wee nod to The Walking Dead with Kirkman's farm. You've got the iconic Jurassic Junction truck stop, along with many more. The town of Marshall will be one of your biggest tests in the game. It's a massive, dense town compared to Spencer's Mill, home to Judge Lawton and her strict regime. Marshall's a place you'll want to be prepared for going in, good weapons, supplies, and a vehicle to make a getaway if needed. The dead are everywhere, from regular old zombies to special infected. And speaking of special infected, let's have a look at all the different kinds of zombies you're going to encounter. The State of Decay has several different kinds of zombies, starting of course with your most basic ones. These are most of what you will encounter, but as you progress through the game you're going to encounter more and more dangerous variants of the virus. These are known as freaks. The Screamer will let out an insanely loud roar, attracting nearby zombies and temporarily stunning you in the process. The Bloater releases a toxic gas upon death that will drain your health and stamina. Juggernaut is a hulking tank, so keep your distance when fighting these things if possible, because your favourite survivor could end up squashed if you make the wrong move. Spot zombies need a little extra work to kill. Put down your gun and go for the melee with these ones. One thing with these guys as well is they're slower than most zombies. But then you've got army zombies. They're very similar to SWAT ones, but they're just much faster. And finally, the Feral are the most dangerous enemy in the game by far. It's really fast and it hits like hell. In its opening attack it just leaps at you, pinning you down and taking big chunks out of your health with each shot before ripping your survivors in half, if they're weak enough. Even more so than the Juggernaut, Ferals should be priority to get rid of. Just take these things out as soon as you see them. Or run away, or drive away ideally. When out in the world you've got to worry about 5 very important things, and that's not even taking into consideration the zombies. Health, stamina, backpack capacity, weapon durability or ammo, and supplies. Health and stamina are a no-brainer. In State of Decay, if your favourite survivor dies, they're gone. You can loot their backpack, and you can find your undead friend and even put them to rest. Sprinting, melee combat and so on all drain your stamina, so managing it is a smart idea, because having the stamina needed to hit that one needed swing of a baseball bat, or that last ditch effort sprint to a vehicle, can make all the difference. That's why you need to have some food or medicine on hand, in case you need a quick boost. Your weapons degrade and break as you use them, so keep an eye on that so you don't get stuck fighting a horde hand to hand. Ammo is also very important, especially when facing off against the special infected in the game, and it can really be your saviour in sticky situations. Managing your inventory is incredibly important. You've got your own backpack, which you'll be able to store weapons, ammo, food, medicine and so on in, and then you have a rucksack, which only shows up when you're getting big hauls of items like construction supplies that can be used to upgrade your base. Cars also have storage, so if you found a trusty vehicle that you haven't ran off the road like I usually do, load up the boot with a bunch of extra loot if you want. I always like driving around to some construction sites or different places that I know I can get like big bulk items and just loading the boot up with rucksacks. All of those tools come into play when exploring the world, and when you're not doing story missions, you're going to be looting houses for food, medicine or weapons, construction sites for building materials, and then in some specific buildings like vets, weapon shops or fast food restaurants, you're going to find the supplies associated with them. Infestations are scattered throughout the map, and you're going to need to clear them out in order to keep the surrounding area safe, because if you make too loud of a noise beside one of them, let alone a bunch of them, you're going to have a lot of zombies barreling out of windows and doors chasing after you. Along with infestations, hordes of zombies roam the valley. Hordes can consist of around 10 to 15 zombies, but they can usually end up linking up with other hordes and give you one massive battle. They'll wander around town streets or roads looking for the chance to chase down any survivors they see. Hordes are also a great opportunity to drive really fast and open your door for maximum effect. Every now and then Lily will give you some tips about survivors she's heard about in the valley. Some of them are in their own safe house and they might just need some help with supplies or holding out against zombies. Others are struggling and they need a new place to stay. So they'll join you in your base and become a character that you can play as. It's been nearly 13 years, painfully enough, since State of Decay 1 on the 360. State of Decay 2 released in 2018 and saw a few different DLCs following it, one of them even bringing you back to Trumbull Valley. Undead Labs went on to be acquired by Xbox in 2018, and then came the announcement of State of Decay 3 in 2020, with a follow-up trailer in 2024 that featured a little bit of gameplay. State of Decay 3 definitely looks like it's increased in scope, from a budget point of view, visually, and maybe even gameplay. The first trailer just showed off some zombie animals making their debut, with the more recent one featuring a bunch of survivors being radioed for help by another one that was being surrounded. They fight off the undead, lose one of their own in the process, before running into a juggernaut that's coming out of one of those blood plague looking hives from the second game. My hope for 3 is that our survivors actually get a ton of character, backstory, personal quests, and relationships that can be cut short in an instant if they die. That we can actually build our own communities without using the slot system that they've used in previous games. Imagine something like the base building in Fallout 4. Build massive communities walled off and protected like Alexandria from The Walking Dead. Deal with attacking hordes or even enemy factions. Give us our own version of like Negan from The Walking Dead. I hope Undead Labs are really able to deliver a third game that will be well worth the wait, because I've been dying to revisit this world again. And that brings us to the end of the video. Let me know down below, did you play State of Decay on the 360? Maybe it was the remaster on Xbox One or PC. What did you think, and are you excited for 3? Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.